All right. It looks like we are live. Welcome, everybody, to the most amazing webinar you have ever been to. Few housekeeping items before we jump in. So this is going to be about like 45, 50-ish minutes. Going to be awesome. We're going to land the plane like around that time, and then we'll have a little Q&A at the end. It's going to be amazing. First thing, we want this to be as interactive as possible. So you guys are already lighting up the chat. Incredible. We're going to have some polls. It's going to be amazing. Second thing, we're going to be riding the lightning a little bit. We have 6 of the greatest minds of D2C, and we're going to be ripping through a lot. So don't stress out if you miss something, what have you. You're going to get a recording at the end. Don't worry about it. And then the last thing, every panelist at the end will have 30 seconds to a minute. So if you really vibe with them, you'll understand where to follow them, subscribe to the newsletter, what have you, all that stuff. You don't have to go do a Gemini deep research or anything like that. Okay, that's pretty much all I got. I think we're going to kick off the first poll, Chris, and then we'll bring on the panelists. Do you have the poll? Perfect. All right. Now let's go through the starting lineup. So first off, we have the D2C guy himself, Sharma Brands, Nick Sharma. If your brand is blowing up your feed and taking all your money, Nick's probably behind it. He doesn't just know the playbook, he writes it. And if you're also incredible into music, Nick is an absolute assassin on the ones and twos. Nick. Next up, we have, she's a powerhouse behind the absolute rocket ship at Stone. It's an incredible newsletter, Go to the Millions, and she has more GTM strategies than you have browser talent open. So, the undisputed champ of Cherene, hyping the cold, hard revenue. Thanks for joining us, Ari.
Thank you.
Up, Cherene Aubert, one of my favorite humans on the planet, one of the best minds in D2C, undoubtedly the best hair in D2C. She's scaled countless D2C brands to the moon, managed hundreds of millions in ad spend, and she now has an incredible new agency called Growth Capital. Queen Cherene, welcome to the show. Next up, my Austin homie, one of my really good friends. Alex is the creative cheat code. He founded Marketing Examined, amongst a million other amazing things. He's basically made a science of turning content viral. He's incredible. Also an insane athlete, and as you can see, has unlimited drip. Welcome, Alex.
Appreciate
Thanks for
it.
coming.
Thank you.
Next up, Emily Ryan, co-founder of Westfield Creative, the ultimate inbox whisperer. She's a top-tier Mailchimp Pro partner. If your abandoned carts are finally printing money, it's probably because you stole one of her templates. Stoked to have you on, Emily.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, the man with the plan. Don't let this person look at your P&L or balance sheet because you probably won't like what he has to say. The CEO of Iris, the host of Making Sense podcast, writer of the exquisite newsletter of the same name. He also has the best financial breakdowns on his Twitter feed. And yes, I'm old and I will hold on to Twitter and not say X. So that's it. We have gathered the Avengers of e-commerce, and we're really excited to get into it. Okay, now, next up, where do we see the polls? Okay, perfect. This is exactly what I thought. So most of the people on here, minus Drew, because he's super young, everybody else has kind of seen, actually, no, Drew, you had the kind of golden years as well. We've all been in that stage of the money printer. You put $1 into Facebook and you get $7 out. That's just not the reality of the world anymore. And so acquisition costs are definitely something that are a huge, huge issue for a lot of people. And what we're seeing and we're going to talk about is it's not necessarily the best brands that are winning customers at a cheaper rate, but they're winning better customers and they're getting more out of that customer in terms of returning revenue and LTV. There's a really great line that real businesses aren't run on CAC, they're run on LTV. So with that being said, let's shift into our first segment. Nick, I'm going to start with you. What's the actual different in 2026? I know you sat across with Sharma Brands, some of the fastest growing brands with real proper budgets. What's different now from kind of the old era to this new epoch?
I think, well, there's a couple things. One is like everybody's got a brand and their mother and their favorite celebrity. They've all got brands now. So competition is a real thing. E-commerce used to be the place you go as like your digital shelf to avoid the competition in the retail shelf, because those are all, as we know, very finite and, more pay to play. So it used to be a competition of who could bring people to the digital shelf the best. But even that now has gotten 10x harder, right? You've got 25 different brands selling the same innovative Korean serum or the new protein popcorn, whatever it may be. Adaptogenic toilet bowl cleaner, whatever it may be. And so you've really like the real challenge today is basically like, I think it's twofold or maybe threefold. One is like product, right? If you have a mediocre product, you're almost guaranteed to stall at a very like between that 20 to 30 max.
Yep.
The second piece is brand. Like, are you building something that actually has a wedge in the market from a culture, from a communications, from a positioning, from a messaging, a tone of voice standpoint, something that's actually people see it and they want to be a part of it. They want to be related to it. They want to learn more about it. And then the third piece is efficiency. And efficiency has become, a bigger thing this year. When Jolie came out and started making headlines with their like revenue and their growth, and people found out there's one full-time employee with two founders, I think that was when people started to realize, oh, wait a second, the flex isn't to go have an office with 30 people or have 10 people in marketing. The flex is to have as few people as possible and maximize the number of revenue per head. And so I think that plus where AI has gotten today. I don't know how much of you guys are deep in AI, but I've got 4 agents that I work with now. They're sitting right here on my desk. And efficiency is the name of the game. Like, you can pretty much run what you would previously do with multiple people with one now, and a number of agents or contractors, freelancers, et cetera. So I think it's product, brand, and efficiency is kind of like the name of the game today. Everything else that you might think of in the tactics, like at the down, in the dirt tactics, whether it's around email marketing, whether it's around paid ads, whether it's around good creative, like that is just table stakes now. If you don't have that 10 out of 10, you can't even walk in and compete.
Yeah, no, well said. I mean, a little bit orthogonal to DTC, but there was that huge article of the Anthropic guy that's running a bazillion like motions for the marketing team and things like that. I'm going to go to Drew and then you, Cherene. Drew, Nick said something about revenue per head count. What are you seeing in the composition? So Iris sits across a treasure trove of data. What are you seeing in terms of the composition of like really healthy, profitable, hyper growth brands versus hyper growth, but they're trading off a lot of margin for that growth? Can you kind of pontificate on what you've seen in your data set at Iris?
Yeah, are you asking like specifically from like a headcount perspective or
just kind of whatever you think would be most useful for the audience? I just know that you have really great opinions and you also have an incredible data set to cross-reference your opinions.
So I think, yeah, I'll maybe talk about it from like a staffing or operating expense perspective, because I think that's kind of the most interesting one right now. When you consider like the financial complexion of like the D2C business model, literally 90 or like 85% of the costs are like associated with like $1 of revenue going up, right? And so this model is like highly incentivized to save money on fixed costs because there's nothing you can do about all the other expenses. And so I would say like a year or two ago, I think like a good like revenue per head was probably in like the 1 to 2 million range, and that's probably pretty broad. But nowadays you can get a lot more leverage there. And so you're seeing, and I think, there's some people on Twitter that have kind of, latched onto this narrative, but I do think, Nick brought up Jolie, like they're a great example of what some people refer to as like the D2C 3.0. And as somebody who's like selling tooling into this market, it's pretty amazing how like ravenous people are just to like save some money on using AI. So yeah. I think like 2 million was probably like a best in class revenue per head number. And then that number is only going up.
Yeah, definitely. Really well said. Cherene, you been at a bunch of brands. You're now at your agency. What are you seeing? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I love how Nick framed this, because what he's highlighting is there's kind of like two opposing forces right now. There's like this uniqueness that every brand needs, and then there's AI and automation and leaning into that for efficiency. And you can very easily kind of cross your wires and use it for the wrong thing. And I think like the thing that's different in 2026 than in 2025 and prior to 2025 is we were in this era of make as many iterations of ads as you possibly can. Take that winning ad and change a word, change a color, change this, change that. That is like not working anymore. And if you look into, 9 out of 10 ad accounts, probably 10 out of 10 ad accounts right now, and you look at the top 5 or 10 ads, they're all uniquely different concepts.
Yeah.
And so I think there's this like AI slopification of content is a forcing mechanism to have us focus on unique and different content, because basically if you're an advertiser on paid social platforms, then you have to understand what the paid social platform's incentive is. Their incentive is to get the user to stay on the platform for as long as possible. And they do that by showing them unique and delightful content every few seconds. And if you start to see the same thing over and over again, you get fatigued. And that's exactly what happens to the ad algorithm. The more you give the ad algorithm the same content over and over again, the more that content fatigues, it doesn't serve. Then your ads are spending a few dollars here and there on variations of other ads, and you're burning money. So I think it's like we have these amazing tools at our disposal, but consumers are also desiring connection more and more with brands than they ever have before, because they have some understanding that everything is turning into slop. Not all consumers. Some consumers love the slop. But I think in general, like the sentiment is people want to have like real relationships and connection with the brands, because it is a part of their identity. And brands are kind of missing that. And the ones that figure it out will excel.
I couldn't be more on that train. And one of the best brand guys in the world, Alex Garcia. Alex, you had kind of a hypothesis that every brand should have like a TV show, was it? Or like, so tell me more about how you think of brand building, because I'm a huge brand maxi, but Drew would never hire me because I love brand so much, and brand can be kind of hard sometimes to put into the spreadsheet, and he would be taking me in the back, whipping me because, hey, where are these results coming from? But Nick talked about brand, Cherene talked about brand, and Garcia, you are the brand genius. So give some folks some free game on that.
Yeah, well, I also think it's partially how you position it and look at it. Like if a brand is investing, let's say $30,000 a month into organic content, and then they're measuring it against the same CPM that they're getting on Meta, and they're getting like $1 CPM or a $2 CPM, like you're playing a different game at that point, right? There's a lot of brands that we work with that are working or that are getting 15, 20, 25 million views every single month, and not through like UGC content. I'm talking about like own narrative. We're creating the content internally and then publish it on their feeds. That's a different game when you're able to generate 15, 20, 25 million views every single month. And then that is, when you're playing the game of you don't have to go to creators and you don't have to pay for top of funnel, and then you're able to generate all that top of funnel awareness internally, own that narrative, own the perception, that's a completely different game. And so one of the best ways to do that is exactly what you mentioned, is looking at content through the lens of like a content funnel. There's content to get followers, there's content for your followers, and there's content to get your followers to take action, right? Like, and so we can look at that. We can look at it through that lens and understand, okay, when we're creating that top of funnel content, the goal is reach. There's a parallel between content that people engage with and you showing up back on their feed. So naturally, as somebody watches a piece of content, you're going to continue to show up on their feed for basically like the next week. Or if you get them into your ecosystem, you're now able to obviously be able to continue to target them with the content that you create. And so when we look at content through that lens and looking at it through the perspective of a funnel, and we look at what a show can be, if we look at where attention is going, and it's been going from TV to our phones, but now all of the formats that we're working on TV are now working on your phones, right? You see this with game shows, with challenges, with interview styles. Like one of the fastest growing accounts is Subway Takes. They were averaging 3.5 million episode or 3.5 million views an episode, growing at hundreds of thousands of followers every single month. And if you really look at the piece of content, it's the same format, right? Like every single episode is the same all the way down to the hook and the thing that they talk about, right? And so when we think about what that is and how you can execute that, you have to look at it through that lens of a show, right? How can I create a specific theme and a specific format that I can repeat infinitely. And you like, the way you could even look at it is like, if you look at like Friends and you look at that, they're always in Central Perk, right? If we just took that set and we had to look at that, the cafe or the coffee shop as like a set that we're going to build a show around, that's how brands should operate. And then think about building a show that has a clear association back to the product that they sell for their top of funnel awareness. One of the best brands that does this is Built. I don't know if you guys have seen Roomies on IG, 150,000 followers off like 25, maybe 30 episodes. The whole thing is like centered around a sitcom of four New York City roommates living in one New York City apartment. Their product, right, is getting points back for paying rent, right? And so the association factor is like it's almost like the bridge from the IP to the product. And so if you look at a lot, again, the creators right now are the ones doing it. The most brands are starting to adopt it. But if you look at the biggest opportunity from a top of funnel perspective to be able to funnel back to the brand, it is a show. And a show doesn't have to be something that requires 3, 5, like a whole production team. It can be shot in an iPhone. The thing to think about is how you want to be positioned in a market. A brand like Crafted, which is a men's jewelry brand, they're not going to be doing something that's shot on an iPhone. They're going to be more doing something that's more highly produced. Neither is a brand like Cherry versus, a completely different brand. So you have to think about production level in this case from a positioning play, right? The Burberrys of the world aren't going to do things on iPhone, specifically on Instagram. So from an opportunity perspective, yes, developing a show, one of the best things. If you want to test and kind of look at what the opportunities are there's 3 ways to look at. Social show lives on a completely different account. A limited series is more so something that you're doing that's like 3 to 5 episodes. And then a signature series is more so something that's like very unique to you that you can scale, but also doesn't require the same production efforts as a show.
Man, I love it. I didn't mean to turn this into the Alex Garcia show, but that was fantastic. Great monologue. I think the big takeaways for me there are kind of riffing off what Cherene was saying of there's a certain intangible. I know Drew's hackles go up with his finance brain, but when you have an emotional connection with your customers, that is such a strong moat. And having these brands, having this like really great brand content, not to say like paid acquisition doesn't have a place, but it's really important. And I think another way to say that is there is a huge difference between generating attention and generating intention. And I think that is something that a lot of people miss. Let's fire off our next poll, and then we're going to go to you, Emily, and then you, Ari. We want to talk about, speaking of retention and connection, what are you guys thinking in terms of how do you think of retention? How do you think of email? How do you think of SMS? How do you think of basically reactivating your customers? Let's start with you, Emily, and then go to you, Ari.
Yeah. So I'm coming from an email background. I'm an email marketer. And retention's everything. I think so many people just focus on that first purchase. And I really like to have people think about the second purchase. So getting people back is always half the battle. So, whether that's the win back series or a post-purchase series that you're creating, I really like to focus on, okay, what can we do to create something that wins them back? Yes, we got them to purchase, but let's get them back again. So, there's tons of stuff we do in Mailchimp and in other platforms, but working on creating that second purchase, I think should be a focus.
Yeah, I love that. And then this will actually make Drew smile. I do think that the first purchase contribution margin is a very important metric. But Ari, love Salt and Stone. I have a bunch in my bathroom. How do you guys think of retention marketing in terms of email, SMS? Do you guys do any out of home? What do your playbooks and strategies look like that you can share with everybody?
Yeah, and what I'd say too is, as much as I love retention, I think wherever you can be first order profitable, that would be a better place to start. And so I lead our retention team, but also our growth team, and I need both teams to work together. So retention can only retain to a good customer that's paying enough on the first order. And then once they are, the programs that we have in place, we have a membership, which is really exciting, where we're incentivizing people to shop with us the same way they would be proud to be Sephora Rouge. We want them to be proud to be Salt and Stone Tier 3. And then to me, I'd say I take a pretty aggressive stance to retention, where I always want more campaigns. I always want my welcome flow to be longer. I want everything to be closer together. I want to send an SMS, even if we sent one the day before. Like, I think everyone, especially at a premium beauty brand that is subtle in a lot of ways, and that is non-promotional, people can mistake that for needing to be like demure and quiet, but people don't like notice when you're being quiet. They just don't think of you. And so I think that people like put themselves in the corner in the name of brand. And my retention strategy is more emails. It's bigger lists. It's getting a better pop-up that is like split tested to the hell, and then gamifying getting them back. And I think you can do that still with no promotions and still find ways. Also, retention too. When I think about retention budgets, we spend every day against retention. We don't want our exclusions to be too tight on some channels because we have many categories. If we sell you deodorant this year, next year we want to sell you body wash, or maybe in the same order we want to sell you both. And I think people can put themselves, again, just like too tightly into their box. So to me, retention is as loud as it can be without being boring.
Yeah, well done, ladies. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think this kind of dovetails a little bit also with what Alex was talking about. When you're always top of mind and then you're ready to consume, great brand content can almost be as powerful as retargeting. Drew, I want to talk to you about kind of the financial aspect there. You guys split out like returning revenue versus first order revenue. How does that complexion kind of look for profitable brands, for brands that you would quote unquote say are healthy versus brands that are stuck on the hamster wheel, just constantly going? And I guess this too also has a bit of a vector in terms of the business complexion, right? Like if you're a one SKU brand, you either need a subscription or you need something, because there's basically no way to push up that LTV. But give me some thoughts in terms of what you see in your data.
So it's super, super category dependent. So like based off what I see, like the best in class beauty brands, like on average, if they can get a customer to buy 2 times in 12 months, like that's very, very strong. And that's the kind of stickiness that can get you into like 100 million plus. In supplements, that number can be 3, 4, 5. In something more durable, it's like if you're not over 1.5, and even some beauty categories can be pretty low. And so like I think I agree with this notion that like first order profitability is sort of a good framework. But if you're somebody who's selling like in VMS and specifically kind of some sort of product that can get 3, 4, 5 purchases, it financially, you're incentivized really to model at a payback and go first order negative. Why is that? Because over time, as you stack the repeat revenue, that's the stream of gross profit that's actually financing incremental customer acquisition, right? So by getting more customers, you're giving yourself the ability to acquire more customers. And so there's obviously like a cash constraint there. Like you can't just like burn money infinitely just because you're acquiring customers. But if you have the ability to manage to a 2, 3, 4 month payback, then all of a sudden it's this sort of flywheel where it's like the more returning customers that you have, the more new customers you can buy. And that's like why you see like, I don't know if it was like AG1 or somebody else sort of like famously scaling at like a 0.8 AMER or whatever. And some people are like, how can they afford to do that? And it's like, well, they have a stream of $15 million a month and 80% margin gross profit that's financing that acquisition. So I think you got to think about it so very, very categorically, where like I don't know that, like obviously CAC payback got a lot of people into a lot of trouble. But I do think that there is really a place for it. But for the most part, if you're not in one of those like very sticky categories where people are buying 3, 4, 5 times a year, then I think you do have to kind of at least be breaking even on that first purchase. And otherwise, you're going to start just digging yourself into a hole that's really hard to get out of.
Yeah, no notes. I love that. Cherene, anything to add in terms of what your thoughts are in retention? Is there anything that you would put a cherry on that amazing, awesome knowledge sundae?
Yeah, there's so many thoughts. I mean, there are so many different business models. Like if you're talking about AG1, Drew, and their ability to acquire customers at scale because they had an understanding of their cohort retention. And when I was at Bobby, it was very much like that. We were acquiring customers, and baby formula customers don't switch products generally, unless the baby has an issue. But once they're acquired, and their LTV grows like crazy. So you'd look in the ad account and you'd be like, who are these people? They're morons. They're scaling into like the worst ROAS I've ever seen. But it's like, it doesn't matter, because what you don't see is everything that happens after that customer's acquired. And those businesses just have a completely different funnel. And yeah, I think the businesses that can figure out subscription or high LTV in a way that is like not common for their category are super interesting. For example, I work with a skincare brand. They're like a $300 plus premium skincare product, and they have a massive subscription base, which is like crazy. Like, what kind of person is subscribing to a $300 skincare? It's someone that like absolutely believes in the product out the gate, that has the income that fits a certain like demographic profile, that has resonance with the, you know, ingredient list so much that they're convicted to subscribing. And that completely changes the economics of the business. And for that business, we're testing like, hey, we want to reduce CAC. We want to acquire more new customers. And there is sometimes trade-offs with that. Like, if I open the floodgates on new customers, then I'm probably acquiring more customers who are less likely to subscribe. And that changes the business model fundamentally. And I think like there's a lot of nuance to your acquisition and retention strategy and how that plays out to like your whole business model for some businesses. Yeah. So it's a fun game to play.
Yeah, it's definitely like life. It's rarely black and white, usually gray, the middle path. We have our first question in here. I have a website. This is from Patricia. I have a website, online store, and use Mailchimp for newsletters, order, and delivery email reminders. My current customers appreciate the formats, content, etc. My issue is, how do I get new customers without blowing up my current customers' phones and emails? There must be a way to balance that. Nick, you run a lot of growth stuff. How do you guys balance volume versus performance? Because everybody already saying, let's send more emails, let's do that. I love that vibe. But then there's also a certain aspect of brand equity, unsubscribes, spam reporting, etc. Give me your thoughts on that to answer Patricia's question. Yeah,
I mean, to be honest, the big thing that no one talks about is segmentation. Like, really good segmentation can help alleviate this problem. There's a lot of tools now that help segment. Like, before, I used to do it just in Excel sheets and try to segment people by orders or by types of product they've ordered, either based on a product tag or the collection they bought from. But now you can use different tools to segment. I know Orita is one that I think a lot of brands are using successfully right now. But basically, the ability to just segment out based on orders, based on behaviors, based on patterns in terms of timing of purchase. And, you know, that's essentially how you can send more emails to the right people without bothering everybody and without paying for Klaviyo credits to reach everybody or whatever ESP you use. So, you know, I would say segment the most you can. Try to figure out how you can leverage tools. Either your ESP might have tools built in, or you can try to build something on top. If your ESP has a API, for example, and you've started to vibe code stuff, you can try to build your own segmenter based on your own buying rules and buying patterns. You can also take a bunch of this raw data and put it into different platforms and tell it to tell you how to segment based on buying behaviors and buying patterns from analyzing the data. So all of this stuff is actually right at our fingertips now. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, this segmentation, absolute bar. And I think this is actually, for people that haven't played around with AI, I'm old, so it might be a little bit of like old man yelling at the sky, but it's sensational. And this is a really, really good application for it. If you can dump your customers in there and figure out best ways to segment it, and then you can actually even build messaging and things on that. Cherene, you have to have some thoughts on this.
I have a quick answer for you, Patricia. I think I've met a lot of business owners who are at, let's say, like sub $10 million in sales, or maybe like even sub $20 million in sales. They're very conscious about how many times they're emailing their customers, but I just want to give you the confidence and reassurance that they probably aren't noticing as much as you are, and you think that you're bothering them, but they're getting messages from your competitors, probably 10, 20 times more. And sometimes people use junk emails to sign up for brands, not junk emails, but like emails that they buy things with, and they will check that inbox at different frequencies. And if you're like, I'm going to email them twice a month, that person may be checking their inbox, somewhat infrequently, and they may miss you. So I think it's like the frequency could be a good thing. Obviously, keep deliverability in mind, but people are not obsessing over their inbox. I think from a text SMS standpoint, you just want to look for if your unsubscribe rate outweighs the incremental revenue that you're driving from sending more messages. So start testing sending more messages and keep an eye on your unsubscribe rate. Chances are it's probably worth it.
I love that. Drew, I want to talk about that, but I'm getting the producer in the ear that I need to move the show along. But we're going to go into the lightning round. So maybe you can use your lightning round to talk about that. Let's do 2 more questions. We have one from Aaron. Actually, Drew, you can answer this question. So I'm not, this is like the nice person sandwich. This is from Aaron. When you talk about whether a first order is profitable, is that calculated by the cost to acquire the customer, contribution margin? I know you have some really cool views, CM1, CM2, CM3, contribution margins. Can you give us like a succinct answer for Aaron?
It includes everything that is incurred as a cost when the order is placed. So that includes cost of shipping, cost of the product, cost of payment processing, any freight that's been absorbed into your products, and then marketing costs.
Okay, amazing. I hope that answered your question, Aaron. And then we'll do one more from Carrie. Any idea how to drive revenue for brands that have off seasons like swimwear in the winter? I'll give. Who wants? I can give a little bit of. Okay, perfect. All right, I'll give a little bit. One thing. It sounds silly, but if you can, Australia is actually not a horrible market. It's not a great. The U.S. is what you want to win, but Australia, especially in swimwear, is great because the seasons are flipped, and so you can sell into Australia when it's the winter in the States. But Ari, I hope I didn't steal your thunder.
No, I mean, Australia is always an option. I'd say too, there's a spin to put on anything, and it's resort wear, and then you can do a sale to clear this season's inventory. Nick and I worked with a brand called Half Days, which is a ski wear brand, and they have the same problem. They also definitely have different homepages when they're selling in Australia at the same time as they're selling in the US because it's different seasons. But I think it's the spin of vacation wear versus everyday wear. And then everyone is actually buying swimsuits earlier and earlier because season, and that's how fashion works too. So I think the quicker you can train your customer that swimwear is bought in the spring, and then maybe to expect a major moment from you in December or whatever helps you to prepare them for their vacations. I think there's a spin, but watch Half Days do it for ski, and I think it will help your industry too.
No notes. I love that so much. Endless summer, Ari. I love it. Okay, we're going to do one more question, and then we're going to go into the lightning rounds. You're going to be first up on the lightning round, Garcia. This is from Nicole. Do you have any tips on email marketing to companies who are B2B, but our brands are well known in our industry because professionals use it? We were thinking educational emails, tips from pros, etc. One day we plan to open up D2C. Email marketing campaigns. I don't super understand the question. Let me see. Do you have any tips on email marketing campaigns to companies who are B2B? I can help with B2B, but brands are well known in our industry because professionals use it. Does anybody have, I don't understand the question. Maybe Nicole, if you want to say that differently, I can, unless somebody else understands it. Okay, let's rip that poll, Chris. What were the poll questions? Really? Oh man. Zuck's dominance is okay. That's really interesting. Okay, time for our lightning round. Keep the questions coming in. There's the backlog. We're tracking these. I will start slotting them in. But this is a really fun part of the show. This is why you bought the ticket. Every one of our esteemed panelists, these D2C geniuses, will get 3 minutes to pontificate and rip on one of their favorite strategies, playbooks, what have you. Garcia, you're in slot number 1. You have 3 minutes on the clock. I will graciously hook you, but then if we start going a little too long, I'll have to intersect because the producer is yelling at me to keep the show on keep the trains on time, if you will. The stage is yours, Alex.
Cool. So one thing that I'm seeing and one thing that I'm looking at a lot is brands that are starting to look at organic content as like the nucleus of growth. And so what I mean by that is if you build out a robust creative team, and that doesn't mean just having a social media manager and thinking that individual is going to do everything and anything and underneath the sun. But if you're looking at your creative team through the lens of like having a head of content, having a good social lead, and then having a good analyst, you can run circles around a lot of brands. Because if you look at organic through the lens of like a data center and the ability to create a ton of content, again, looking at it through that lens of a content funnel, you have data that could feed every single channel, a significant amount of data that could feed all these other channels. And what I mean by that is like, if I'm publishing content in let's say it's something that's product driven, right? I'm now building out essentially bridges to email. I'm building bridges out to SMS and taking a lot of the things, like if a hook works, if I create like a one-shot video is like a 7-second video with text overlay. Typically that text overlay is very much like a hook or a headline in, a landing page or an email, and it works significantly well. I'm bringing that over to email. I'm bringing that over to SMS. Versus a lot of times, like these teams operate in silos, and email doesn't know what social's doing, social doesn't know what paid, and paid doesn't know what social's doing, and SMS, right? Like everything is operating in silos. And so if we can get it to a point where we're looking at organic as almost like this data engine that we're able to optimize everything else off of, we're playing a completely different game. And so the thing that I would really look at is understanding all the data and understand, like the same way that you test on paid, test on organic, test the different headlines, test the different ways of structuring stories, test the different angles, the different archetypes, all of those elements, start testing those things and actually collecting that data, and not only just collecting it, but like looking at it, looking at the common denominators and all the best content, and then relaying a lot of those things to the other teams and to the other channels.
Amazing. I love it. And you hit your time. Well done, sir. Well done. Emily, 3 minutes. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I'll just give you like a super simple email tip here for you guys. We live within Mailchimp, and we do this a lot with our clients. So one of the highest performing emails that I see with D2C brands are non-promo emails. So what I want you guys to do when sales slow down, when revenue slows down, send a non-promo email, like a letter from the founder, customer story. Like, people love to see the people behind the brand. And I wish I saw it more across the board. Like, just one example, my son is a football player, and I ordered him some pads recently and immediately got an email. It was like post-purchase. And it was like, hey, I'm the founder of Battle, pads, whatever. And I love those kind of emails, letters from the founders. So highly encouraging you guys, like, instead of saying, okay, let's do a 20% off sale, let's do a last chance sale, like, let's just send a simple non-promo email. And I guarantee you guys, those will make a lot of money as well.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. And I think it also kind of is very simpatico with what we were talking about of building an emotional connection. Like, you're selling to humans, and they're just not a number. And I think that's a brilliant, brilliant tip, Emily. Thank you. Yeah. Ari, you're up next.
So many ways to take this. I think I'll give a tip on performance, which is, in general, in our ad accounts, we're all trying to create different ad types. We're all trying to be really interesting. And an ad type that I think we all don't spend enough time on is the ad that has nothing changed about it. And by that, I mean, it's taking a screenshot of a high-performing UGC video and putting Instagram text on it and calling that a lo-fi static, but then taking it one step further and putting no copy on it. And then actually letting your ad copy within Meta do the work for you. And then the same vein, taking a campaign asset that's actually beautiful that you wish would work and letting that go up without a headline. I think because everyone's ads all look like ads, that actually by doing less and pulling back, you can do what you really wanted to do all along in Meta, which is like have your favorite branded copy and favorite branded assets go out. You just need to be strategic on placement. And then what I'd say too is in my category, not many brands do that. And so it's been really helpful. And I think it kind of goes to the main thing that I see work in beauty, which is to not look into beauty when you're trying to find examples in beauty. So like whatever your category might be, try to zoom out. And I wouldn't want to look at another brand that sells deodorant or that sells body wash or that sells perfume, because then I will look like whatever my customer is also seeing in our space. So make sure everyone is really seeing what you do as different. Salt and Stone is known for our campaigns, and they're a bit more fashion forward. And that's exactly the point, because we're not trying to be a Sephora brand. We're trying to be a brand that can transcend. And I think you can do that and also pull back and do what you really want to do in your ad account. So my advice is to do a little less.
Stunning, stellar. Pick your superlative. That was great. Absolute bar, as Emily said, because everyone's ads look like ads. I love that. All right, that was fantastic. Mr. Fallon, you are up next, sir.
Remind me of the question.
What a finance guy. Were you doing P&Ls in the background right now doing your next financial breakdown? Unbelievable, this guy. Now, what is your top tip? I think one of the things that was actually really interesting, do you want to just actually riff on what you were talking about with forecasting through segmentation? I think that's a really interesting topic. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah. So as Nick said, like kind of like basically creating different types of customers and analyzing them. So like it could be like we have some customers that think about it like from like a geography perspective, because like they're selling in like the US and the UAE and the UK and whatever else. Or some people think of it from like a product perspective. So like, if I buy Salt and Stone's, body spray, I have a much different likelihood of then buying the deodorant as versus like the other order or whatever. And so like, I think from a forecasting perspective, and the reason that I put that into the chat was because like we were sort of talking about segmentation and like email marketing and sort of retargeting or whatever the word you want to use. And I think that segmentation is extremely powerful, not only from just like that perspective, but also when you take that information and then you kind of face it forward, right? Because it goes back to sort of what I said earlier, which is like when you think about repeat revenue, sort of like as the subsidy for your customer acquisition spend. You can really start to like break out these different types of cohorts and sort of model them differently. Because they're like, I really shouldn't be taking like some blended, retention rate by month and just like applying it across my entire customer base when I sell, deodorant on subscription and also, a 180-day supply of shampoo in a giant jug or whatever. Like those are two totally different profiles. And so I think like, you can kind of start to manipulate your like new and returning customer revenue mix by using that information and sort of targeting it. So like this is very common in like razor and blades models as well. Yeah. So like Jolie, we used Jolie earlier. That's a good example because like they're customers that buy the shower head, but like maybe don't subscribe to the filters. Yeah. That's gonna have a huge margin impact, right? Because the filter is way higher margin than the actual shower head itself. And so the months where they're selling, a lot more new customers and they're not subscribing, which I think Jolie has like mostly subscriptions. So maybe this is like a bad example, but bear with me. So, their margin is going to be a lot lower when they acquire a bunch more new customers. And then as those returning customers, shift back to being the majority, the margin will kind of go up. So I think you can like take that information, analyze it, and then use it to basically manipulate your P&L sort of month to month, where you can say, hey, I want to target this many more customers because I'm coming into my seasonality. And if I get, this many more repeat customers, then I can bring my margin up from the repeat customers because I'm selling lower margin products because it's summertime or whatever the case may be. So you don't want to like get carried away because there's kind of like an infinite level of permutations that you could create. But yeah, I think like breaking it down into like products and like sort of your hero product versus like maybe like your second or third product is kind of a good way to do it. And then you kind of do like all the other ones. But if you're doing that analysis from a segmentation perspective, I've found it to be like, it gives you almost like a lever that you never had before when you're kind of like looking forward and saying, hey, like if I send more of this product out the door, like what happens to my business versus this product and how can I sort of use that to my advantage?
No, I love that. When I was years ago running DTC marketing, that was something that I did a little bit of a same, but different. But ultimately, when somebody had last purchased and what they had last purchased, because once somebody falls out of like 90 to 180 days, depending on what your purchase cycles are, I pretty much consider that a new customer, or a lapsed customer, if you will. And so it sounds like it's same, but different, but more with the financial vector. Yeah, that's incredible. Mr. Sharma, hit us.
Man, I would say my top tip strategy for the year, get your hands dirty, whether it's going deep in the data, whether it's first of all, I think like AI and the rate of which people get responses now and the rate at which things are just coming back to us is so fast. It's the new standard of 2-day shipping in people's mind, but in terms of information exchange. And so, take a second to like go slow and figure out what's exactly happening behind the scenes or within that process and why is it doing that? And is that actually the right approach to do it? But also then get your hands dirty doing it. So whether it's, going in and building something for yourself, like we were talking about, you build your own version of a segmentation machine, whether it's actually downloading the data and going through it yourself, whatever it may be. My advice is to try to take a few things slowly on purpose. And oftentimes within that process, you find a couple of golden nuggets that you wouldn't have otherwise found if you didn't intentionally go slow. And sometimes, maybe 20% of the time, going slow might be a total waste of time, but you figure out different patterns or you absorb different context along the way. So it's still valuable in some way. But yeah, take it slow and try to figure out what you can do differently.
I love that. Action breeds information. Okay, close us out, Cherene. Take us home.
All right. My favorite tactical advice here is to come up with a pillar content strategy that can be used both in your ads, your social, and your email. And I want to talk about how you can specifically apply it to your Mailchimp campaigns. So start with content pillars. The content pillars that I like to use are education, product focus, and lifestyle or inspo. Yeah. So those are like 3 pillars that you can create infinite content ideas off of. And then layer in your product sales. So if you are a multi-product brand, take your top hero products, and you could even do an analysis of your product mix, and then layer it onto your content pillars. And then what you want to do is for every day of the week, you can pick when that content pillar is sent in your email campaigns. So on Mondays, I want to send education. On Wednesdays, I want to send a product focus. On Fridays, I want to send info and lifestyle. And 60% of my mix of business is product A. So I want to talk about product A in my email calendar 60% of the time. So if you can kind of like create this framework for email campaign planning, and it's actually resonant to your business, then what you can do is like put those pillar contents into, an LLM with your brand guidelines, and it will give you a ton of email ideas. And so I think like there's just a lot of brands I see that are missing the opportunity to talk to their customers in non-promotional ways, like Emily was saying. And that should be like a continuous drip where you're nurturing your customers and giving them something other than sales. And that applies to your social. You can apply that same pillar content framework to your social strategy. You can take, part of that and apply it to your paid media strategy. And I hope you guys are enjoying my daylight savings glow right now.
As the ideas get better and better, the light just keeps shining. It's kind of like an awesomeness heuristic. It's incredible. Wow, what an incredible lightning round. I need, Okay, let's move on. I have some really fun questions. We're going to do some Q&As, and then we're going to kind of start to land the plane. So if you guys have more questions, but let's start ripping through some of these. Emily, I have a question for you. Where did it go? Okay, where was the... Oh, you already answered that one. The AI customer, or where'd it go?
Mailchimp.
Yeah, the Mailchimp one. Okay, you answered that one. And you answer this one. Okay. Oh no, here it is. Yeah, we use Mailchimp for mass email for our company. I find that setting up campaigns and Executing is not a problem for us. Our business sells millions of units a year. Congrats. We have a large and loyal customer base. Congrats. I use Mailchimp for AI subject headlines and taglines. We find that click rate is extremely low sometimes. How do we combat low click rates and low open rates? This is from PJ.
Yeah, great question. Click rates to me are extremely important, especially for deliverability right now. You want to show the inbox that people are interested in clicking on your emails. So there are many ways to boost click rates. I mean, we could make a long list here, I'm sure, but you really got to think like how do people click on this? And I ask people to start like observing their own actions in your own inbox. What do you click on in your own Gmail? What makes you click? Is it the way the copy's worded? I love, there's this one newsletter called Big Spaceship Internet Brunch. And they literally word things like, they'll just say like, this is awesome. And like, you have to click on that. It's curiosity, you have to make people want to click. But you can also A/B test different button colors, red versus hot pink, and see like, does one get more clicks? You can add menu bars throughout your email in different places. Clicks are extremely important, but you also want to look and make sure your list is healthy. Maybe you have a lot of inactive contacts that's bringing down your open and click rates. So there are quite a lot of things to look at, but start small with the design of the email and see how you can maybe improve clicks with just the overall design.
Exquisite. I hope that answers your question, PJ. Okay, Alex, I have a question for you. Hot take on opportunities and challenges for celebrity and creator brands. What are any thoughts there?
Yeah, hot take on opportunities and challenges for celebrity creator brands. A few, some things I'm thinking about on the creator side. I think that somewhat of the creator landscape is shifting when we're talking about like even partnerships or how you interact with creators and kind of bake them into your strategy. There's a brand called All Saints, and there's a creator called Bat. I don't want to butcher his last name on live, but basically the way that they're operating with creators is very much like Cherene was talking about with having content pillars. They'll have these integrated content pillars, and then they'll bring in these creators to essentially be able to give them the ability to like, hey, like we're going to give you a creative team. Right. And with that creative team, we're then going to execute against this content pillar, and they'll create X amount of content with that individual. And so that is something that is working extremely well. And that lives between like a collab between the brand and the creator. Some challenges that I see is like if brands that are led by creators are only leveraging the creator to grow, then there's an issue, right? Like if it's purely based off the creator and they're not thinking about it through that lens of having these different content pillars that leverage, whether it's creators that they're working with, whether it's leveraging just actors and talent, et cetera, to be able to build off and solely relying on that individual and their output to be able to grow the company, then that is a challenge that you can face. And so there's brands that are doing, like a good brand, I would say, to pay attention to, because they started like that and they've segued to essentially not doing that, is like VPN in more so like the fitness space, where it started as almost like a kind of celebrity creator brand, was like that until they got to like 25-30 million in revenue. And then as they brought on different creators, like the founder has kind of taken a little bit of a step back, and they've really started positioning their athletes as the faces of the brand and like their slogan more so as the narrative for the brand. And so there's definitely a playbook to do it well, but it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, no, well said. I got one for you, Drew, and then one for you, Ari. Drew, what time frame do you recommend using LTV, or does it depend on the business model? So for example, like what's the look back period for LTV? Because I know a lot of people sometimes use the longest period possible, and that usually is not it's great for fundraising, bad for running a business.
12 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you get nervous at like 24? Like say if I'm like a 5-year-old business where I have like, because my thing and you're the expert here, but my thing is like you want a decent delta between how long your business has been in business to your LTV frame? Because outside of 2 years, it's pretty hard to predict what's going to happen in the world. Like we had COVID, we had these things where.
So we still we'll still forecast like returning customer revenue like post 12 months, obviously, like that'll go up to like 36 months in some cases. But if you're like trying to like budget a CAC, then I recommend 12 months.
12 months. Okay.
And then if it kind of outperforms your expectations, like your model over those 12 months, then at Iris, we call that ashtray money. And you should never, you should never sort of rely on that. You're getting into like some pretty dangerous territory most of the time. You're trying to budget beyond that.
Super helpful. Sorry to bring everybody along. Yeah, LTV is lifetime customer value or and then CAC is customer acquisition cost. Super helpful, Drew. Okay, all right. We have a segmentation question. Would a survey also keep your? This is from Gabrielle. Would a survey also keep your augmentation? Gabriel, sorry. Would a survey also keep your audience segmentation clean? Is it suggested to ask them what content they would like to receive as a newsletter, or could that be wrongly taken as we don't know what to send?
I don't know. I think I'm a big fan of like a micro yes survey. So I think you can send people down the path by text. You can send people down the path when they give you their email. If you're a brand that sells skincare and makeup, asking, are you here for skincare or makeup, and sending yourself down the path. I think there's no wrong way to collect that information, but if you ask the question, you have to honor the response. So if you don't want to only send your list educational content that like prevents you from selling, then I wouldn't ask someone if they want to receive educational content, because then what about Black Friday? What about the times you want to disobey that question? So I think you kind of don't want to invite results you don't want to be part of. I think the more you can get information though, like I love a post-purchase survey. I love a scent quiz. I love a, poll of we're going to launch purple or pink. What do you think? Or inviting people along on organic social. But I think it's really sacred territory to allow people to segment themselves when you want the answers. And then when you don't, just watch their behaviors and then segment them based on your own data and what you sort of think that list will do, and then test your own theory. So I don't ask questions I don't want to get bad responses to. So I'd say no.
That's a fantastic rule. Okay, we're going to do one more question. This is for you, Emily. This is coming from Nicole. Do you think there's an advantage to using Shopify versus a custom-built website to make campaigns flow more efficiently with Mailchimp?
Yeah, I mean, Shopify works amazingly with Mailchimp. It integrates seamlessly. Big fan of that integration. It pulls in all your data, all your products. Custom-built websites, if you have the budget to do that and it works and it integrates, then that's great. But Shopify is an amazing platform. Highly recommend.
Amazing. Okay, that is going to round out the show, everybody. I hope everybody got a bunch out of it. Now we're going to do a quick round robin so y'all can tell all of your fans that you've made on this webinar where to follow you. Cherene, let's start with you. How can people get involved with Growth Capital? Where can they follow you? Tell the people, take about 20, 30 seconds, and then we'll just hot potato around.
Amazing. You can follow me on Twitter. That's what it's called. It's not called X, at Cherene Aubert, or you can follow me on LinkedIn. On Twitter, I'm a lot funnier and put out way more useless content. And on LinkedIn, I'm super professional and value driven. So
amazing.
Go to LinkedIn.
Queen of DTC. You're the best, Cherene. Ari, how can people subscribe to the newsy? Where can they buy Salt and Stone? This time's yours.
You can buy Salt and Stone at saltandstone.com. Please do, because I run the D2C. And you can read Go to Millions at gotomillions.co. And thank you.
Amazing. Emily, how can people get involved with your agency? How can they work with you? Where can they read your writing?
Yeah. First of all, I use Salt and Stone conditioner, and I'm so excited to meet you. I'm Emily Ryan Likes on Instagram. My website for my agency is Westfield-Creative, and I'm just throwing it in the chat.
Amazing. Awesome stuff. Garcia, plug Cut 30, Marketing Examine. Get in there, kid.
Cool. So if you want more just kind of deep dives on content, we have a podcast called Sweat Equity, which is what we're about to film. On my end, marketingexamine.com, you can subscribe to the newsletter. We do have something called Cut 30 to help brands learn short form video. And then also have a creative studio here in Austin called House of Distribution that builds out shows and content strategies for a lot of 8, 9, 10 figure brands.
Amazing. I still need an invite to the office, man. You're killing me.
Anytime.
Drew, how can people sign up for Iris? Tell them about your newsy. This time's yours. Let's land this plane.
Yeah, Ari's got like a domain for hers. I don't know if I have that. I think it's just the newsletter is just drewfallon.substack.com. I'm on
Lame.
Twitter. Somebody's got to teach me this stuff, man. I'm the numbers guy.
So funny.
And then on Twitter, DrewFallon12. Also mildly less professional than my LinkedIn, which is just Drew Fallon, I think. So yeah, hit me up.
Amazing. Awesome. And then how do they get involved with Iris?
irisfinance.co. You can book a demo. 25% chance it's on my calendar. Literally.
Oh, you're amazing. Sharma, take us home. Let's land this plane.
Listen,
and get these good
do not follow me anywhere. Everybody else here, go follow them. Drew, Ari, Alex, Cherene, Emily, go find them. Don't follow me.
There you go. The man said it himself. Thank you guys so much for dropping in, spending your Thursday with us. Huge shout out to Mailchimp for putting this party on. This has been great. Real big shout out to Matt as well at Mailchimp who helped do all this stuff. Brianna, the whole team over there. This has been great. I think we're going to wrap up. We've got to most of the questions. So thank you, everybody. You've been incredible. You will have a recording, and then there will also be an ebook that will be going out shortly in a couple weeks. So you'll be on that list. You'll get that there. But thanks again. We really appreciate you. Go check out Mailchimp, and we really appreciate the time.